Welcome back. Well, a new poll finds a majority of Americans do not want either President Biden nor former President Trump to make a run for the White House in 2024. Now, Trump has already announced his intentions, and President Biden is expected to eventually do the same, but no formal announcement yet. For more, let's welcome back Niall Stanage, White House columnist at The Hill. Niall, good to see you.
Good to see you, Natasha.
What do you make of this poll? Is this a sign of voters hoping for a shift in their party politics, or just as simple as wanting someone new on top?
I think partly it's just wanting someone new. I think it's partly not wanting a rerun of the very bitter 2020 election. But I also think there are reasons that are specific to supporters of each party. One of the more interesting things about this poll is that there are very significant shares of Republicans who don't want former President Trump to run again. A majority of Democrats don't want President Biden to run again. I think the reasoning there, it's different depending on which party we're talking about. I think in the Republican case, there's a fear that former President Trump has become an electoral liability. I think for different reasons, Democrats worry about, honestly, President Biden's vigor in fighting another hard-fought presidential campaign and in his ability to defeat non-Trump candidates, perhaps someone like Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida.
Right. And President Biden, of course, is not yet formally announced. Is there any precedent for a sitting president stepping aside for another party candidate?
Well, I'm just trying to think back on that. I mean, let me think. Did Lyndon Johnson step aside in 1968? He did. That's about the only instance that I can think of in modern history. It is quite rare. Johnson at that time had been very much damaged by the Vietnam War, and the Democratic candidate in that subsequent election went on to lose to Richard Nixon, the Republican. But in general, it's very rare. Obviously, it is much more commonplace for a president to seek re-election. It would be a surprise, especially after the midterm elections, where Democrats did better than expected. It'd be a surprise, I think, if President Biden decided against running for a second term.
Appreciate that. And there's also a new report that friends of Hunter Biden are planning to fight back against renewed attacks following the Twitter files release. What effect could that have on future elections?
In terms of future elections, well, that's really more about what happens when the new Congress comes into effect in January. Obviously, Hunter Biden's allies want to fight off the inevitable investigations. When President Biden ran in the first place, he obviously decided that it was worth the likely or near certain investigations into his family. I suppose this effort by Hunter Biden's allies is a way to limit any political damage, to limit any wounds that could be inflicted by these Republican investigations. But we'll have to obviously see how that plays out. We don't know what those investigations might uncover, whether it would be damaging to the president or not, as his allies claim.
And Niall, I know you're going to help us with an inside look into the Brittany Griner-Victor Bout negotiations, including reports on why Putin did not want to give Biden the swap ahead of the midterms. We will see you next hour. Thank you for your time.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.